Hello all, welcome to the RE Enhancement 10.5 app session. My name is Praveen Sharma. I work for Internet of Things Group, and today I'm going to run through adjust payment enhancement. I just want to run through some slide first. This adjustment we had three parts. One is general enhancement, other one was partial payments and straight line, and now adjust payment enhancements is the third part. Um, Adjust payment, this was introduced in 10.4.0 and 10.4.2 release, which up till now supported for frequency, monthly, quarterly, and location-specific quarter. And starting from 10.5 onwards, we are going to support the adjust payment functionality. Is extended to support the following frequencies too, annually and semi-annually. The adjust payment supports either the update or split payment schedule or update payment only line item. Prior releases used to just have update only payment line items. Whenever adjustment happens, it only updates the payment line items. How can the user can do the adjustment? There are a couple of ways they can make use of adjust payment functionality. One is through the contract query section that is present under the payments tab on the payment schedules multi-tab. There is an action called adjust payment, and similar adjust payment action is also available if you go to the payments multiple tab. You see the adjust payment, or they can also do is by opening up a payment schedule and clicking adjust payment. I put a screenshot in this slide, but I'll also run through the example in demo. This is an Excel mockup. I just put to highlight what happens. So right now we are in this video, or in this T-Tech session, we are actually talking only about annually and semi-annually frequency. The calculation, the adjust payment also includes any partial payments, payment logic that is incorporated on a payment schedule. It does get into that effect. So the partial payment logic is based on the pro rata basis value of what is being set, usually for annual, semi-annual, and quarterly. You could have 360, 365, or actual day basis. Here in this slide, I just showed an example of a partial payment where the yellow highlighted one, the one after that is shown after highlighted yellow is after the adjustment. As you can see, before the highlighted yellow one is a original payment schedule. Now after the adjustment, the schedule was broken into two payment schedules. PS1 and PS2, and the partials that is being calculated behind the scenes is highlighted in the yellow, and partial it may result in a partial first or partial last depending on how the schedule is broken. The green highlighted ones is indication that there is a new PLI that is getting created, and that is nothing but a retroactive. In adjust payment functionality, a retroactive also can be achieved. What is a retroactive payment? Retroactive is actually payment that is applicable to any payment type. It's not restricted to rent or base rent or anything. They are sometimes referred as catch-up or back rent. Typically, cases would be you are signed up on a lease, but after some time you also acquired more square footage into the lease, and now originally you were paying a payment schedule of $1,000 per month, but now since you acquired the square footage, there is a possibility that the legal paperwork could take a little bit of time, and meanwhile you continue to pay the landlord the same rent. And once the lease is incepted or lease is inside TRIRIGA, a catch-up needs to happen. It's like a one-time payment that will basically capture the catch-up value of the payment. What are the other typical use cases could be is that you had a rent review. Most of the time you have a rent review that was scheduled to happen in January but didn't happen till April. So in the month of April, it month of April is the one you decided on the lease to be in the TRIRIGA system. For the past 3 months, the tenant continued to pay the landlord the same rent as he was paying prior to January. So we have to do a catch-up for 3 months. And sometimes the catch-up or the back rent or retroactive is useful in amendment cases where when you are amending a lease, there is a legal paperwork involved. You're not done when then the legality and documentation is not done. You basically are giving the same rent to the landlord, but since once it gets into the system, you need to do a catch up. What we used to do in earlier releases is we used to just do a one-time payment. We have asked users to create a one-time catch-up as catch-up payment, but in this release, in the 10.4.2, we have already automated this process, but this is extended to annual and subman. Here is an example of an Excel sheet. I just screenshot an Excel and put it here. The yellow bar that you see towards the bottom, you see that there is a big chunk of amount that is created as a one-time payment of 4,000 some change. That's now something that is created and based on the payments that was not paid in the past period. So how does the retroactive work is basically if there was a payment that was paid already paid that was in the past from today, that we cannot go back and change their amount. Instead, we catch up. We calculate the amount that needs to be amounts need to be calculated, and then a catch-up payment is in. And for any payment that is falling beyond today's date are active and the tenant has not paid, those payments need to be updated with the new amount after the changing into the payment schedule. Apart from the adjust payment and retroactive, I will also be covering options and clauses behavior around payment schedule splitting. Options and clauses have an ability where you can associate payment schedule to. So till 10.4.2, we didn't allow options to be, if there is a payment schedule associated to option, we didn't allow the user to modify the payment schedule or update the payment schedule. And same is the case with clauses. We didn't allow it. But in starting now, we are opening up so that any payment schedules that are associated to the options are also can be split or they can be also updated. One thing to keep in mind, there are still the exceptions that are continuing from older releases. We still don't allow any clauses that create some additional records. For example, index adjustment, fair market rate value, and percentage rent clause, rent with permit, auditable records. We still are not does not allow user to does not allow, or they don't appear in the list of the payment schedule through the adjust payment. Those are some of the exception you need to. Now I'll get into the demo of adjust payment and retroactive payment. I'll go back to my system. And again, this is both again whatever work we do around lease area. We typically call it as RE lease, but the impact is there in both the places, real estate lease and asset lease. um, and just give a mm, give a commencement date of 1st January 2014 and end date of 31st January 2017. Any random expiration date, I add the contact details, um, administrator as mine, so that I don't have to go through approval. And for sake of payment instruction, I will add the remit to, default remit to, and I go to the payment schedule. Now that my lease is created. For sake of this, I will also be referring back to a Excel sheet. I will be creating a annually. I will be concentrating on annually, but the semi-annually works the same. For the options and clauses, I'll create a monthly schedule. So I'll create a annual schedule. Annual schedule, air conditioner charges, and since I don't have to worry about the straight line, so that's why I uncheck the include in amortization. And what I will do is my first payment date to be 12/15/2014, and with a period start date of 01/01/2014. That means my annual payment starts on 01/2014, and with the amount of $12,000. I'm going to create one schedule and probably adjust. Let me see what's the end date I do. 131. Let me just create with adjust of some 15 months, and I will create 01/31/2017 is my end date. I since have to show you update as well as a splitting, so I will create one more. So I'll go ahead and create this schedule, and similarly I'll create another schedule which is administrative fees and which is annually again, and I use the same data as before, and my period start date is 2014, same amount as 12,000. So it's like 12,000 per annually charges for administrative fees. I use adjust every month as 15 days, but I really want to end the payment schedule to be ending on 31st January 2017. I'll go ahead and create this schedule. I will also create one more payment schedule to show the clauses and options. This is a monthly schedule. My first payment date is 01/2014. I'm not worried about partials or anything, and it's at $1,200 per month. I'm going to pay on the first of the month, and I'm just going to stick with one schedule and maybe just leave it as 24 months. 24 months, and I'll generate the schedule. And I have a schedule that is starting on 2014, ending on end of December. I'll go ahead and create this schedule. I need to create one more so that I can also show you the options. So I'm going to use a design fees. Let me try something else. Common area maintenance, and it's a monthly. Sorry. Monthly frequency, and with start date of 2014, and same $1,200 per month I'm going to charge. One number of schedule is 1, and it's just 15 months. I'll go until the end of the 2015. So I'd go ahead and schedule this, create this. Now I have my all schedules created, to annually to show to behavior of adjust payment as well as the retroactive, and to monthly to show you the clauses, how the split end clauses and option. In the lease, if you go to clauses options, you should be able to add a clause. So I'm going to add a clause as maintenance clause. There is a common area maintenance. I pick up that clause, and in the payment schedules, I'm going to associate the common area maintenance payment schedule to this clause. And I click create on this and save. So now I have a clause that is associated to the payment schedule. I'll go ahead and add an option to this lease. And I pick up renewal option. So renewal as option is I picked up the effective date from 1 day next to the expiration date. I'm going to just do a 2 years option. And for this payment schedule, I associate the building insurance. Now I have the data ready for me, and what I will do is fill out some informational fields. It's not required to fill since it's not required, but I'll go ahead and activate this. I'll wait for the lease to get activated. Meanwhile, I'll just run through the Excel file. My Excel file is these are use cases that we run to test out the values, test out the comparison, so the test the values, unit test cases, and we just to make sure the values are correct. My original annual payment schedule looks like this, and then I'm going to make an update to the annual payment, and then also going to take another payment schedule and show you the split that also updates the future payments, but also create a retroactive. And let's see if our lease has still processing. 2 of the payment schedules are processing, so we can wait. All of the payment schedules are scheduled, and I have the lease back with the actions at the top. In order to utilize the adjust payment functionality, a user has to revise the lease. I will go ahead and revise the lease and click on continue. I'm just going to use data revise. As soon as you put data revise, the lease goes into revision in progress, and you will see some actions apart from generate and remove available, which is the adjust payment action. I'm going to use the first. I'm going to click on Adjust Payment, and as soon as I click on Adjust Payment, you should see a screen pop up where it will list out the payment schedules that I can perform adjustment to. My two annual payment and two monthly payment are there. I'm going to click on the first payment schedule. As soon as I click on the first payment schedule, which is the annually one, it populates the start and end date from the payment schedule to the details area. And by default, the action is update or split payment schedule. The update or split payment schedule is newly added in last release. The update only payment line item is what we are calling it as existing ones, which we still support. So I'm just going to update the annual amount of to $16,000. It was $12,000, no change in the dates. I'm just going to update this amount to $16,000. A user can also modify cost codes, and they can give adjustment reason and all those things. And below it also gives you the line item, and you can see the partials line items were created with two full amount. So I'll go ahead and process this adjustment. What will happen in this case is behind the scene, the system is going to create a copy of a payment schedule. It will update the amount on the payment schedule. It will deassociate the payment line items that were in the old schedule and associate to the new schedule. And it will since it's a payment schedule, and if it's a partial scenario, it will recalculate the partial amount. And if there is any payments that are in the past that has been paid, it will calculate a retroactive amount. If there are any payments that are in the future, it will basically update the thing. So what are we expecting here? After the adjustment, the annual amount would be 16,000, and quarter monthly amount would be there. I'm using I think I left a pro rata of actual day basis, which is not a problem, but the Excel gives you the pro rata of 365 days. I might have an amount slightly different, but I should definitely get a retroactive payment. So let me go back and see if my adjustment happened. And if I close this window, go to the administrative view, and I should see. Luckily, I should see a payment of. I should first see that my partial amounts are updated. Earlier partials was 558, but this time the partial turned out to be 745 because the amount has increased. And the next partial amount of the last partial amount is also updated. As far as the payment is concerned, one payment is 12,000. That didn't get updated because it was in the past, and one payment that was in the future got updated from 12,000 to 16,000. But in between, you will see a retroactive payment that is created for today's date, and any today's date for the amount that was not paid in the past period. And then last partial amount is updated because there was old partial of $1,000. Now it updated to this one. So if I correlate back to my Excel sheet, you should see that yellow highlighted, I get a payment amount of $4,186 and a new PLI due date. And and if you look at the old PLI, like 12,001 PLI, and you go to the System tab, it will mention you the retroactive payment amount for $4,000. And so that being done, let me close this out. And that's the case with the update amount. Now if I go back to again, and this time I would go with a different approach. I would open up the air conditioning, which is an annually payment schedule, and use the adjust payment option from there. If I click on adjust payment option, just like earlier in quarterly or monthly, it populates the from and to date from the payment schedule since it's being picked up from the payment schedule. So this time I'm going to use a second case where I want to split the payment schedule into two. So what I do is I will enter the amount as starting at 2015 and leaving the remaining amount uh, uh, as as the last date. All I'm going to change is 01/01/2015. Now bear in mind that we have a rule that a from date cannot be earlier than the payment schedule start date, and to date cannot be later than the end date. And also the adjust amount cannot be less than the amount of the payment schedule. This is a split example of payment schedule. So I'll go ahead and process this. All I'm expecting is two payment schedule, one for 16, 17 days because I'm splitting the schedule, and the other one that I'm currently on is going to split into a 2-year, just little over 2 years payment schedule. I'll go ahead and process this. This is a asynchronous process behind the scenes for adjust payment. You can close the window of the payment schedule and refresh it and refresh the payment schedule, and you will notice two payment schedule, one with a description of split example of payment schedule. I just get into that, and if I get into that, I should see a catch up because there was a payment that was since it's a split, and in a process of split there was no partial payment that got generated because it aligned with the period start date, so there was no partial first required, and in the partial last remained the same, but the amount is increased because the amount on the payment schedule has increased. One PLI was updated and updated to 16,000. The other one was left as it is, but there was a catch-up of payment schedule of 4,000 was done retroactively. If I go back and refer to my Excel sheet, you will see the same data. And one thing to note is the first payment schedule, no impact was there. It was broken at the time. Just the payment schedule had a partial payment. And if I see here, and you see this 12/15/2014 to 12/31. That's the payment schedule. That has only one PLI for $558. This was untouched. And the retroactive PLI is also gets associated. The retroactive PLI also gets associated to the contract. And this retroactive is actually utilized in straight line in the catch-up period. That actually is the two example that I wanted to run by you on annual for updating and splitting. The semi-annual approach is exactly the similar one. There is no change. Probably there is no change, and instead of annually frequency, we are utilizing the semi-annually frequency. Now, on the second part, I would like to go ahead and do another adjustment. Now, I want to do for the clauses. So I want to do something for the common area clause. I go to payment adjustment, click on adjust payment, and now I want to split the common area payment schedule that I have. It was a 2 years long, and I want to split this into two payment schedule, and the result of the splitting is that it should be both the payment schedules should be associated back to the payment schedule. I'll increase the amount from $1,200 to $1,600, and I click on this, and I go back and check the clause to see if my payment schedule was broken as well as associated to the clause. X out of this one, I go back to my clause First of all, I will notice that I have two payment schedules for common. For common area maintenance, I have two schedules, one for 2014, another for 2015, $1,200 and $1,600. Let's see the payment for these. Um, there is a catch-up of payment for 4,800, but I are interested in to see what happened to the clause. So if I go to the clause, and I should see two payment schedule that earlier was one payment schedule, and now it's two payment schedules that are getting associated after the split. So we are still keeping track. We do have a subquery that points to the history payment schedule that gives you the original payment schedule from which these two split payment schedules were formed. That's on the split clauses on the form, payment schedule on the form associated. Now I go back into the towards the last feature is my option. I have a building insurance that is tied to the payment building insurance that is tied to an option clause option, and I would like to split. Let me actually split this into three payment schedule: 6/1/2014 and end on 6/30/2015. Ultimate. Since I have put the dates in the middle. I put the dates in the middle. I should get three payment schedule. All will be split. One with the 1,600 amount, another with two with 1,200 amount, and split three and associate to option. Okay, I'll go ahead and process this. X out of this, let me go and check my option, and I go to the renewal option, and I have this three payment schedule. One that I actually increase the amount to 1,600, and the other two as associated to the option. And I can also see from which history they have been split. Again, the rules for splitting and associating payment line items is same. Basically, take any schedule that is created new is scheduled status, and anything that is old will be history, and any payment line items that are associated to the history will be associated to the new schedule. If I go to the payment schedule and check out the payment schedule for building insurance, that gives me that three payment schedules are associated to the contract as well as to the option. That actually brings us to the end of the demo. The release notes indicate form changes on new record will not have any. So for any existing data, we have provided patch helpers like updating pro rata method, current period calculation method, and payment due on. And more information about this can be found under the Managing Real Estate Asset and Release Notes, and the link is provided in this screenshot. That brings, and thank you for attending. Again, my name is Praveen Sharma. Thank you.